Hey everyone, my name is Joe Bartel, and I'm going over the 3 players I love and hate this week. Talking first about the players I hate, I think it has to be said Jerome Ford's situation is murky. I'm recording this video before we know the status of Nick Chubb. So if Nick Chubb is out this week, I guess you can throw the analysis out the window. But right now, this might be your last time to sell high on Jerome Ford. And whether that be for rest of season or week 5, it's worth noting the Commanders' defense isn't very good. Jerome Ford was a pass catcher last week for the Browns. He had 7 catches, he had 7 targets, got all of them, and looked pretty good as a ball carrier, as he has in every sort of relation with Nick Chubb out. But if Nick Chubb is to return, I think the Browns' offense is going to be a quagmire of a backfield with Nick Chubb doing a lot of the ball carrier stuff, taking away some of Jerome Ford's opportunities. D'Onta Foreman probably cutting into both their workload from a ball carrier perspective, and then Ford operating as the pass catcher. That's fine, but certainly not a running back 18 or 20 range where I see him currently ranked in a lot of places. I would be fading Jerome Ford if you can. Now we're entering bye week season, so it might not be possible, but Jerome Ford is probably outside my top 24 running backs this week if Nick Chubb returns. And I think the Browns will slow play Nick Chubb, as they should. With the way their season's been going, they might just want the mascot that is Nick Chubb returning at full health and looking good. That might be the only thing they have going for him. But I'm very nervous about Jerome Ford's fantasy value if Nick Chubb comes and plays this week. Moving over to another player I hate this week, it's Kareem Hunt. Now, he was the prize of the waiver wire show this week. And of course, if you need a running back with all the bye weeks going on, you have to play him. 15 touches for over 60 yards last week as a ball carrier. I couldn't have been more wrong. I thought it was going to be Carson Steele getting some work and then Kareem Hunt really just operating as the safety net. But after fumbling for a second consecutive week, Carson Steele out the door, Kareem Hunt in. My concern, much like Cleveland, it's a really weird backfield. Kareem Hunt was used by the Browns last season mainly as their goal line guy after Nick Chubb was injured. You had Jerome Ford as your electric Tony Pollard-esque running back for that offense, and then Kareem Hunt doing short yardage stuff. So then why was Kareem Hunt not used as the short yardage guy instead of Samaje Perine, who didn't look all that good in his opportunity in that role last week? I'm concerned that it's going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who could make his season debut this week, and then Kareem Hunt, and then Carson Steele for a few snaps, and still Samaje Perine in an offense that, by the way, without Rashee Rice, might be bottom 3rd in the league. You picked up Kareem Hunt probably because you had to play him. I'm just saying Kareem Hunt is probably outside my top 24 running backs this week. Sort of a must play if you have to play, or a must start at flex if you have to. But I'm tempering my expectations. And I think the Saints, if they don't outright cover that 5-point spread, could be able to win that game. I'm really anxious to see from a fantasy perspective what that Chiefs offense looks like. And Kareem Hunt is definitely outside my running back 2 range if I can help it. Finally, it's a player that's been on my love and hate list, specifically hate list now for a few weeks, and Michael Pittman is in a weird spot. It seems like right now, as of this recording, Anthony Richardson will make a start again for the Colts. I think if you interviewed that front office, maybe they'd say they wish they'd have Joe Flacco out there instead because their jobs depend on the Colts winning football games, and Flacco is going to help that team win football games right now more than Anthony Richardson. I know that Pittman had 50 receiving yards in essentially 2 catches before Richardson left last week's game. But then, of course, all the PPR stats, that 100-plus target guy that we've seen in past years, all came back into play with Joe Flacco under center, not Richardson. The offense might pass more with Jonathan Taylor out. At least that's the presumed place for the mild high ankle sprain scenario that Jonathan Taylor seems to be in. And I think the running backfield with Trey Sermon as your projected starter operates kind of like the Texans did with Joe Mixon, and then it went to Cam Akers, who didn't look good, and then Dare Ogunbowale got more involved for the Texans. That's the offense that I see. So maybe they're going to have to pass more by default because they can't run without Jonathan Taylor. Either way, you have Josh Downs, who's been electric since his return. A.D. Mitchell's been around. Alec Pierce can do things. Michael Pittman, if Richardson is your quarterback for the Colts this week, just isn't a safe play for me. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm recommending some of these love hates. Just guys that can outperform expectations, or a little bit spoiler for later on, can perform at expectation at the tight end position. Pittman's outside that range for me. I like a few other guys like Dontayvion Wicks, even Trey Tucker, more than Michael Pittman this week. And you could probably get most of those guys off waivers, or you already did earlier this week. A reminder to folks, if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously like, subscribe. That'd do a whole lot for me and the channel. But we got daily content. It feels like videos every single hour on RotoWire Fantasy Football right now. All right, 3 players that I love this week, and we're going to start with Dontayvion Wicks. I'm a Packer fan, Wisconsin sports through and through, and I'm going to tell you right now, the box score looked great last week, but Dontayvion Wicks could not have played a worse game. He had dropped touchdown pass, at least one catch that was challenged and reversed. Just wasn't a good outcome for Dontayvion Wicks on the football field, but 5 for 78 and 2 touchdowns. You're more than happy about that. Now, the game script allowed the Packers to pass, really second quarter and onward. And I wonder if Christian Watson being out more or less allows Dontayvion Wicks to be a fantasy relevant player. We assume Christian Watson will be out at least this week. I think it'll be even further. And so long as Watson is out and Wicks is guaranteed in that 3 receiver set, you're going to have a guy that's at least a wide receiver 3 or flex play every week. Now, the Rams are one of the worst teams against the pass. Jared Verse has been a very good pass rusher for that team, but otherwise, they look like a defense that doesn't have Aaron Donald bailing them out in every single way. Whether it be Jaden Reed, I think Romeo Doubs can be an interesting play too, but certainly Dontayvion Wicks. Outside the top 30 for a lot of folks, Wicks becomes a must play for me if you have him and you picked him up this week. I think you're good to go and throw him out there. I'm also in love with Brian Thomas this week, and he's quietly had 18 targets over the past 2 weeks. Of course, the blowout 2 weeks ago against the Bills kind of covers everything because you're just passing the ball to pass the ball if you're Jacksonville. But Christian Kirk getting more involved, I think, has also helped Brian Thomas. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Thomas is a wide receiver 2 or 3 moving forward. Now, Gabe Davis didn't play last week. He's been banged up in practice, limited participant. Jacksonville's season might be done this week. The Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. I don't know if that changes. I don't know if that matters. But if Doug Peterson and Jacksonville lose this week, we're talking about a completely different offensive change. And I wouldn't be surprised if Doug Peterson becomes one of the first coaches fired after his ineptitude to start the year. But Brian Thomas is going to benefit in every single way. And I think Jacksonville has to pass in order to win. Kenny Moore, the excellent slot corner for the Colts, didn't play last week. Already DNP this week. I'm assuming Kenny Moore won't play. And that's an all wheels up scenario for Brian Thomas, who is one of those players I'll be quietly trying to acquire in a lot of places. His value might be at the lowest starting this week. We'll have to see. But Brian Thomas is certainly a play I would consider in most formats. Finally, my love of the week here is Pat Freiermuth. And I want to be incredibly clear here. The tight end position has been very, very frustrating. In some ways, saying Pat Freiermuth is a love this week is just saying be happy with the floor play, because that's really what Freiermuth is going to give you. You could be in love with the sexy waiver wire pickups with Isaiah Likely, Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry, this week Tucker Kraft, and every single time those seem to be disappointing. Just settle in with your DiGiorno pizza, competitive love TV shows that seem to be out there, and be happy with your 8 fantasy points a week. That's what Freiermuth's going to give you. And it feels like every other tight end can't consistently do that. He has the 9th most targets this year and 8th most receiving yards among tight ends. It's not great. I understand that. You're not happy for a floor play, but let's just be happy with consistency, which might be the winning formula at tight end this week.